Have you ever wondered how modern UI components like this turning accordion components are built with reusability and flexibility in mind? Stick around with me as we explore a very powerful concept in React known as compound components. Hello world, welcome back to another video. If you're new here, we are all about helping you become a better developer. Today we are diving into a concept that is really powerful in React. It's called compound components. But first, what are compound components? Compound components are a pattern in React where components are pieced together in such a way that they share the same implicit state that helps them communicate with each other in the background. Whether you're building an accordion, a drop down, a select, or any other component that needs communication between its other parts, compound components are an elegant solution for this. So while the name might sound intimidating, we're going to break things down using a really practical example, an accordion. And to make things even more interesting, we're going to be writing the code with TypeScript. So buckle up and let's start coding. Here's a simple accordion component. When you tap on it, it expands, and when you tap on it, it collapses back. When it expands, it shows you the accordion content, and when it collapses, you're left with just the accordion summary, or what you might call accordion title. Now here's the code that renders that component. So we basically just have this accordion as it is here, and then if we open up this accordion, right, you would notice we basically have just a button, and then this is what forms the accordion summary, and then we have this paragraph that forms the accordion content. So what we do is that we have a state that checks when the accordion is triggered open or not, and then when it's open we render the content, this part, and then when it's closed we only show this part, the accordion title or summary. If we are going to turn this into a compound component, there are a couple of changes we have to make. The first thing we're going to do is to make the state we use to trigger the component a shared state. And how we do that is by making use of React context. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to move this state into the context so that both the accordion summary and also the accordion content can both share that state. Because if you take a look closely, you would see that right now this state is being used by both components, right? By both parts of the code here. So if you look into you see is open here is being used to trigger the content here, and then we use this is open state to render this content to display on the browser. So here's what that shared state looks like with the context API. So basically here we create a context and then we define its properties, and right now we just have open and set is open basically, and then we end up splitting the component. So here's what the accordion summary looks like as a standalone component. You can see here we're making use of React context to fetch data of the open state from the context, and then here we put in a logic to check if there is a context, otherwise we throw this error, because the component can only be functional within the context, right? So if it's being used in a situation where there's no context provider around it, then we throw this error, because then it would not be able to trigger open or not. And then we're able to get the open state and set is open from the context, and then we basically have what we had previously before, just the same way it is here. And then if you look at the accordion content, it's basically the same thing. Fetch the state from the context and then check if it's used within a context, otherwise throw an error, and then if it's open then we render the content, right? And then here's what that looks like when we piece it together. So basically what we are only doing here is that we create the parent accordion, which is the parent component, and then we get the context provider, wrap around the context provider around it, pass the state as the default values, and then use the children to be able to render both the summary and the content. So if we were to use the new compound component where we have split both the summary and the content into separate components, and we are sharing the state using the context API, this is what we are going to end up having. So we're going to have a parent accordion, and this is the component that has the state from the provider, because you can see it here. The accordion context of provider, and we're passing the default values to these, and then the rest of the components that make up the compound components are children under this. So then we have the accordion summary, and then we have content. So whatever is the update that happens here with the state, whatever changes that happens here, the children here, both the summary and the content, are able to take note of that and then be able to render themselves accordingly. So what does that look like? Nothing has really changed. So if we look back on our browser, we basically have the same thing. So you see, have you subscribed yet? If not, please subscribe. I've got more interesting content coming soon. We still have the accordion summary, and we also still have the accordion content working fine. Now, the benefit of this now is that we have both components split separately, and then we can be able to use the state of the accordion at any point to be able to create whatever functionality or whatever behavior we want in any of the components. We don't need them tied together. It's more flexible, the state is more shareable, and then it's more maintainable. But now let's take this one step further. So right now you might notice that we're importing 3 different components, but in many cases we really do not have to import 3 different components, right? Now let me show you how we can only import only one component and still have access to the children components here that helps us render the full component. So if we go to the type here, right, you would notice I have this change. So we have the accordion props, text children, summary text children, and the content text children, right? But then you notice something here. This is the accordion composition. So now this is the type that helps us make this into a much more cleaner compound component. So basically I've just the composition is going to have 2 types. It's going to have a summary, which is of type accordion summary props. So basically this is a React functional component, but then all its properties must match the properties of the accordion summary props. And then we have another property of the accordion composition, the content, and it's also a React functional component, but then all its properties must match that of the accordion content prop. So you can either do it this way, right, or you could do something like this. So if you don't want to define it this way, you could do something like this type of accordion summary, but then it will mean you will need to import the accordion summary component itself. So that way you see I expect this summary to be a type of the accordion summary component. Otherwise, I expect it to be a functional React component that has the same props as the accordion summary props. I prefer this one because you don't really have to import the component into the types folder, the types file anymore. And then, yeah, you can just have it working fine like this, right? So when you have it this way, right, we can then go one more step further. And then if we go into the accordion component here, so what next do we do? When we come to the parent component, which is the accordion, and from here we want to export the children as part of a compound component from the parent. So then we only have to import only the parent when we are trying to use the component. So what we do is this. So when you come here, you notice that we have passed in the accordion props, which only takes in children for now, as part of the type for the accordion component. So then what else we do then is this. Make sure you don't make this mistake. So don't put it inside. Don't put it inside of these angle brackets as part of like a generic or something. So what you do instead is this. Outside of the angle bracket, then you say and accordion composition. When you do it this way, okay, what error are we having? Okay, I think he wants us to export this, right? So when you do it this way, what next you then do is this. You then say accordion dot summary is equal to accordion summary, and then we say accordion dot content is equal to accordion content. Good. And then we have that error is gone, because why the error was showing was that we've said this accordion component should be of type of so taking a prop of children, and at the same time we should take in a prop of this other component. So when we added this as part of the as part of the extension of this, so basically it looks like we're extending this component, if you notice. So when we added this, TypeScript began to complain because it was expecting us to define the rest of this, which is the children that are sub components of this. So once you do it this way, you don't have to, like you've noticed already, we've imported the 2 components inside of here, the summary and the content here. So when you do it this way, you don't have to import 3 different components when you're trying to use it. So if we come back here, right, we do not have to import this anymore. So the only difference we have to do though is this. We say accordion.summary and we say accordion.content. So that works beautifully. So this way we only import one component, right? And then we have that component with the sub components. We have this as separate components. We have these as separate components that we are maintaining and managing ourselves. And also we have the content also. So if you check in our browser, you notice that nothing has changed. We basically have the same components that work exactly as we expected to work. And yeah, that's it. So there you have it, compound components that share the same states and are very, very reusable and maintainable and works beautifully as you expect. So there you have it. Now you're armed with the knowledge to build flexible and reusable components in React with compound components and TypeScript. So remember, compound components improve code readability, they encourage code reusability and code organization. They also allow for better separation of concerns because each subcomponent manages its own logic. So I hope you've enjoyed this deep dive. If you found this video helpful, please don't forget to hit the like button, share and subscribe for more coding insights. Also, it helps for the algorithm. And also, if you have any thoughts or ideas, please share them in the comment box below. And until next time, keep learning and keep striving to become better. Thank you. Bye.